Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about next level Intune automation. We're going to go over some Graph API, PowerShell, and the right tools to get the most out of Intune. While we're waiting for everyone to join, we typically like to do an icebreaker. Go ahead and drop in the chat where you're calling in from. And for the icebreaker today, I want you to describe your role using emojis only, or pick your favorite emoji to describe your role. We'll get started with content in about 1 minute. See Miramar, Florida. That's not too far from me. I'm in New Orleans. And you can use multiple emojis too. You can create a little story if you want. We have Germany, Tampa, South Dakota, Portugal. Matt with the first emoji story. Okay, we'll go ahead and hop in. Welcome, everybody. For housekeeping, standard as always, there's content available for you. We have resource links in the webinar console up in the top right corner. There's also some downloadable content that applies to what we're talking about today. And then get active with us, as many of you already are. So this live chat will be up through the entire webinar. We'll be answering some questions off the riff throughout the content, and then we'll also save time for Q&A at the end. So there's also a Q&A box. If you submit a question through the Q&A box, that goes directly to the people presenting on the webinar, and it's not public for everybody, so we can send you a direct response for your question. And then we'll probably have a couple polls throughout the webinar. With that, though, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to our all-star lineup. We have great speakers with us today with a ton of experience that I think you'll really enjoy connecting with. I'll go ahead and pass it off to them.
Okay, good. Then let me start to introduce myself. My name is Jannik Reinhard. I'm technical lead, and I'm working mostly on AI topics in my daily business. But I always try to combine the dots between device management with Intune, AI, and all the cloud topics. And for this, I'm also Microsoft MVP for Intune and AI. And with this, I want to hand over to Fabian.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Fabian Rodriguez here. I'm the IT analyst here at Recast Software, internal sysadmin. So I'll pass it over to Lovepreet.
Thank you, Fabian. Hello, everybody. This is Lovepreet. I'm the SC or Solutions Engineer from Recast, but also a former sysadmin, just like you folks on the call. Been in this space for several years, worked with SCCM, Intune, also a little bit of Mac OS and Jamf as well. And I'll be one of your presenters today. Back to you, Haley.
Perfect. So for today's agenda, so for today's agenda, we're going to go over beyond the Intune portal, and we're going to have a few different demos. One is automating with right-click tools for Intune. The next one's going to be third-party patching on Autopilot, and we'll cover Graph API and PowerShell 101. And the last topic we'll cover is automation workflow for real-world use cases.
Great. Good. Then let me jump first with the topic beyond the Intune portal, and I'm very excited to show you how much possibilities you have on top of a well-known portal of Intune to show you what's under the hood and what you can bring out to make your day-by-day business much easier and much more automated. The first thing we want to clarify today is why go beyond the Intune UI. In the end, we have everything. We can click through all the options. Everything is in one portal. What's the need? Why I want to do this? And we have some tasks in the Intune portal which could be very time consuming. Very time consuming means if you want to change a lot of objects, if you, for example, want to build reports which are not already in the portal, if you have a task where you have to click from one portal to another portal, like I want to delete devices which are not connecting for longer, for example, than 90 days. Then I have to go to Intune. I have to delete the device object. I have to delete the hash. I also have to delete it in the Entra portal. And I think no one of you likes such lazy tasks where you click through multiple portals. And this is also something where it makes sense to go beyond and use all the possibilities what the interfaces of Intune provides you. And I think no one of you missed the big hype around AI. And I think you have two things what's important when you want to run AI in your company. One is data, and one is also the automations behind. And I can really give you a hand that you prepare you already today. Think about what's your daily workflows, what are repeatable tasks you do every day or day by day, and think about, is there a way to build automations on top of this? Also, if you're not run AI, but prepare you for the future. Everything what you already built, every data what you already collected in a central storage or in a central pool will help you to have a successful journey with AI in your company, because I'm very sure, and I think the most of the people are very convinced that there will be a big future with AI. And for sure, there are also custom needs, custom solution, custom reporting. If I want to enable my service desk to support my devices, it often makes sense to build an own portal or to give them some tools at hand to do their work also outside of a console to, for example, multiple tools. And these are only a part of the real world use cases, only to give you a glimpse what is possible, but there are a lot of potentials beyond this. And I think you should really look into the different interfaces. And this is also the goal in the session today, to give you a clue how you can start with it. What do you have as interfaces and how can you utilize it with the different possibilities we have. But for sure, I already talked a bit about this. There are a lot of cumbersome tasks, what you have to do. And I think these are all tasks we should shift to a machine. I think what is repeatable, what is lazy, you should shift away from you, because your goal should be to grow, to be more the architect, to push innovations, to push digitalization, and not concentrate on all these lazy things to do by hand day by day. And some examples, what we have is, for example, clean up your environment, clean up devices where you maybe have to, if you're working in an environment with hundreds of devices and make this cleanup manually, it could take days. And this is something where it's much easier if you're sitting down, write a script, maybe also use ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, or all these tools, because they are very good in this. Write a script to do the work in seconds instead of days. Also multi-tenant use cases. If you're an MSP and you have to manage multiple tenants, it's much better if you do it in one tenant and then you over to another tenant. But there are also use cases beyond this. I like it to have a dev and a prod tenant. I create configurations in dev, test it, and if I'm very sure it works, I try to use a pipeline, bring it to prod. Why do I use a pipeline and why do I not do this via the UI? Because I'm a human. I can do errors, and this is something what I want to avoid. I want to copy, paste exactly what I have in another environment to my prod environment to make sure everything what I'm testing, what works, is the same also in my prod tenant. Also beyond this, I can make drift detections to see this is my prod tenant, and I compare this with my prod tenant and day before, and then I see the differences, for example, to see what was changing. And based on this, I can check if this was an intended change or if someone did something was not documented or not discussed. Other use cases, as already mentioned, we have cross-system workflows. Like I want to create a user, I have to create this user in my system. I have to create this user in Entra, and all these things could also be very sensible for doing something wrong. And with this, I build one workflow, I validate this workflow, I test this workflow, and if it works, I can run this workflow for every new employee I hire and onboard, and can make sure that he is persistent and the same data is in every system. And also here, it's very strong to not do it by hand, avoid this, write an automation to make such things with a higher quality and a bigger speed. And my last example, what I bring with me is the point, and I like it very much, reporting in other. I think when you have data, you have a lot of gold in your hands. With data, you can bring out so much insights. But if you keep the data in the box, you have to use the reports what Intune provides you. And I think sometimes are good. They are sometimes have room for improvement. But if you use the data, what Intune already have, and build your own custom solutions on top of this, it's awesome what you can bring out with this, and it brings a lot of things. But these are only the tasks what I bring with me. But I'm also very curious, Lovely, what's some cumbersome tasks that you already faced in your daily business?
Well, I mean, there are many examples, but the one that hit me right off the bat, the moment I saw your slide, was MFA example. So back in the day when I used to manage Intune, MFA wasn't natively enabled. So I had a lot of users that had MFA disabled, and it wasn't enforced. So I needed to enforce it. How would I do it? Would I go to each individual user in admin portal and then enable it? Or is it better to build a script out of it? And that's what I ended up doing. I believe it wasn't Graph API, it was MS Online back then that I was using. And using MS Online, I was able to enable all of the MFA, and I was able to enforce the MFA on every single active device that was part of my organization. So that's one example I can think of.
But that's a good example. I think this was crazy times, and also here with the script, you can do a lot of magic and save you a lot of time where you can do some other stuff.
Yep.
Okay, good. But as already mentioned, there are things to make you stronger, but there are also things to prepare you for the future. And I think I quickly talk about this. I see a very big future in an AI-driven management of devices. I think in the future, there's much more data-driven. You will get much more information. If you see how it works today, it's a lot of pull. You have to go to the portal, you have to pull informations, you have to figure if something went wrong. But I think the future will the other way around. You don't have to pull information. The information will be pushed to you, that you as administrator directly are aware if something went wrong. You get insights, you get recommendations, what you can improve. And also here, it's important to build up your flows, document your day-by-day task, think about what can you shift to a machine, also without AI, but then already the preparation for the future. And I think this will be a very exciting and nice future what's in front of us, but it's important to early aware of it and also early for these times. Good. I talk a lot about interfaces, but let's look a bit deeper. Which interfaces we have? What does Intune provides us? And I think we have three main interfaces where to talk about. One is Microsoft Graph. Microsoft Graph is more or less the heart between everything, what you see in the M365 world and Intune. Every click, what you can do in the UI is in the end Microsoft Graph. This means if you can do something in a UI, you can also use it with Graph, and you can build your script on top of this. But this is something where we want to deep dive a bit more. I don't know, Lovepreet, did you already work with Microsoft Graph so far? Do you have some experience? Do you like it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have my own scripts, but apart from my own scripts, even Recast Application Manager, which I'll show in my demo today, actually uses Microsoft Graph at the background to write applications to Intune. So this is a technology Recast is actually leveraging today within our products. But I'll show that in my demo. But that's one thing I can think right off the bat.
Yeah, I'm excited about your demo, but this is also a good example. You can use everything what you already have and build your own logic on top of this. And I think Recast have here awesome tools who show how you can use the power of these interfaces to build something better on top. But another point, and this is also very strong interface, are remediation scripts. Remediation scripts is an interface to the device, which I manage with my Intune tenant. This means I can run a detection to see if an issue is on the device and fix it with a remediation. I can do this, as I said, for this proactivity to fixing issues, but I can also use this channel for much more. For example, I use it, and I think I also write a blog on the Recast blog, how you can collect inventory. This means Microsoft already has inventory. Me, it's not enough. And I use remediation scripts, which runs every day on my devices. I collect the inventory, save it in a log analytics workspace, and then I can build everything on top what I want to do. Fabian, I think you are also experienced in the sysadmin world. Do you use remediations so far, and what are some use cases what you already have to use it?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the ways that I think would be useful for others if they run into this issue is, right, say if you're working with like a vendor with like Dell, obviously you can get a Dell ready image, have a pretty clean slate, but in some instances, if you're, need to get a device out to a person, you might just get a device straight from Dell, with whatever image they give you. But one of the instances we've had before is it's having issues with like butting heads with Microsoft Defender because it's coming with the McAfee antivirus. So, right, instead of going to each person like, hey, go and install this, we can just run a remediation script to, find and fix, essentially, removing that antivirus. And then another thing is I really like the portion of, being able to run these scripts on demand versus having to wait on this scheduled time. So that's just a easy example from my end. So.
Yeah, great one. And from remediation scripts, we can also jump to log analytics. The first things, so what I explained in your graph, you have to build your scripts to pull information, to also execute action. With remediation, you can do something on your client, but with a log analytics export interface, what Intune provides you, I have to deploy in log analytics in my Intune tenant, and I can connect them. This means Intune push information to me. And these are informations like my devices. I see how many devices I have. I see which device is compliant, which device is uncompliant, but I also have audit logs to see. Yesterday, Fabian wiped the device, and then I can ask him, hey, why did you do this? Was this intended or was something wrong? And based on this, I can also send me daily reports to see what's the amount of my devices, how many are compliant, and what was some critical action some of my colleagues did. And based on this, I also have an overview what's happened. And with this, I can also be proactive to identify, is there an issue? Is something wrong? Is all intended? Is all green? Also here, I have unless possibility. And some of you who are more experienced in log analytics also knows there's possibilities to build workbooks. This means I can use space and build also here some great dashboards to have a live view or a view of my tenant. And with this, I want to hand over to Lovepreet to show more analytics and automation things, what you can do.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and start my screen share. Folks, let me know when you're able to see it. Should be popping up any second. Jannik, are you able to see it from your side?
Now it pops up, yes.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, folks. So let's talk about what Recast can do in terms of Intune, whether that be device management, application management, or anything else. So I'll start with right-click tools. Most of the folks on the call may have heard about right-click tools already. You know, we had a community version, and we also had the enterprise version for SCCM for quite some time. And the goal was always the same, you know, to plug ourselves to SCCM, to make sure that the gaps that are there from Microsoft are patched, make sure that we can make SCCM live, make sure that the tools or the actions that you want to perform are happening instantaneously on the endpoint, so you can have better compliance, better security posture, and whatnot. Same exact concept we are bringing now to Intune as well. So as you can see, I have this Intune portal open. I have some devices that are being managed by Configuration Manager, some devices that are inside Intune only, and some devices that are in a co-management state. No matter what state you're at today, what you can do is you can open these devices individually if you want to, like this. And the one thing you'll see right off the bat is that there's a Recast logo right next to the name itself. If I were to click on the Recast logo, it's going to give me the same exact right-click tools that I had in SCCM now inside Intune as well. Again, like I said, making Intune live as well. So for example, if I want to do right-click tools against it, go to console tools, and I need to get some information against this device. I'm going to go to console tools, and I'm going to open this system information. The moment I open this, it's going to talk to this browser extension. It's going to go talk to our Recast management server, and it's going to connect to that device and pop up the system information against it, as you can see right here. Then I would be able to see all types of information against that device. You know, what is the last time employee restarted the computer? What are the applications they have installed, right? And if I don't like something, I can also remotely uninstall it as well. I can see the Windows updates, exact KBs that are installed locally on that machine. When were they installed? You know, services. Maybe I'm doing some sort of troubleshooting and I need to start a certain service, stop a certain service, or even change the startup behavior. I can do all of that right from here. Okay, so that's what we have done. You know, we have brought right-click tools to Intune now, and it's coming through this browser extension. Now, when I say browser extension, folks, keep in mind, even though these tools are inside Intune, these tools can go beyond Intune as well. So for example, if you are, let's just say, are on a web portal like ServiceNow, Salesforce, Jira, right? And you want to perform right-click tools against that web portal, that's absolutely doable. Because all we have to do is highlight the text here. So this, as you can see, is the text. All we have to do is highlight against it, go to Recast Software, and as you can see, we have embedded right-click tools right within the right-click of the text. And then you will see right-click tools everywhere. So that's why you don't have to come to us. We will come to you wherever you're working. Right-click tools will follow you there. So where is this Recast extension allowed? Is it just in Edge? Is it in Chrome? Or is it in both? It's actually in both. So this is Edge, but if I were to open Google Chrome, the same exact concept is available here too. But one thing that we have recently added is multi-device action. So earlier, I showed you how I can open one device individually and then perform an action against it. But what if I want to perform an action against everybody? This is what Jannik was talking about earlier, where we want to automate something and we want to do it in bulk rather than doing it one device individually, right? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to click on this Recast logo that is next to all devices. It's going to open up a panel on the right side, and it's going to list all of the devices that are on the left to the right side as well. So for example, if I were to do a filter or a search for 07 devices and refresh here, as you can see, it's replicating it exactly the same. And again, if you want to do mass actions, select all this, as you can see, then you go to right-click tools, go to console tools, and if I were to say, let's just say I want to manage, I don't know, let's open system information for now. So as you can see here, it says running system information on 12 devices. And now, as you can see here, it's launching it against 12 computers. And then again, if there's a specific service that's giving me trouble on all 12 devices, all I have to do is pick it. It's going to select everybody. And of course, with one single click, I will be able to remediate against everybody. Okay? So that's the first leap that we have made for Intune, which is our right-click tools product or our flagship product. The other big leap is our application management product. And this is what I was talking to Jannik earlier when we were talking about Graph APIs. So what is Application Manager? Well, Application Manager is a third-party lifecycle management solution. What we essentially do is we replicate every single step that you as a sysadmin does within SCCM or Intune under the umbrella of application management. So that includes creation of a package, distribution and deployment of the package, keeping the package up to date, making sure that the package is retired when the time is right, and eventually the package is cleaned and deleted from all the sources so it doesn't run out of space. So we do everything, basically. How do we do it? Well, we pick applications from a massive catalog of 4,000 applications that Recast offers. Once you decide the application that you want us to manage, simply hit deploy. When you hit deploy, it will start to build an automation for you. So let me quickly show you an automation that I've already built. So this is an automation called Microsoft Apps. Okay, if I were to open this, you will see that I have added 2 applications within that automation, Remote Desktop and Microsoft Edge. And what I'm saying is every time when Microsoft Edge and Remote Desktop have a new version available, you automatically go give it to my AM patching group. Now, this is a guinea pig or testing group that I have inside Intune. And this group is receiving it immediately after the release date. Then I'm going to have these folks test things for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, as many days as your company wants, so that you're fully satisfied. And then we're going to give it to our second collection or second group in the chain, which could be pre-production collection, for example. And once I get blessing from these folks, after 4 days, then I will go ahead and give it to my last collection or last group in the chain, which is my production collection. So it's almost like having a auto update type of methodology, but auto updates with testing and vetting phase to it. So not only can I do automation, but I would also like to do proper testing, make sure that it doesn't break my production, right? So that's what we are going to do here. And once you build this process, and by the way, you can customize any of this. So if you want to have some customizations on per group basis, you can do so. If you want to customize the package, maybe add some install strings or uninstallation strings, additional install strings, you can add that as well. And then once you hit the run button, from that day onwards, your job is done. From that day onwards, we would automatically take care of these packages for you. You don't have to go to Intune. You don't even have to go to this web portal for these 2 applications. So just to show you how it's going to replicate, after I hit the run button, it will go to Intune. It will go into apps, all apps. So if I were to show you the remote desktop application here, go to its properties, look at this, created by Recast Application Manager. So we are the ones who created this package. We automatically built the icon, naming conventions. We are the ones building the install strings and uninstallation strings for you. It is our job to add silent switches, no restart switches. All of that is being done automatically without you having to do anything. Detection logic, that would also be built. And of course, finally, how can we forget about assignments? Those same groups that you picked in the same exact time frame, the same exact manner you picked, we're going to replicate that here. When to make the application available, when to make a deadline, all of that is being fully replicated. How is it happening? Yeah, Microsoft Graph API, which you connect within our Recast management server, and then we automatically automate all of this for you. Okay. So that, folks, is how Recast is going to help you with an Intune for both application management perspective as well as the device management perspective. Let's do a poll. Would you like a personalized demo of how right-click tools and application manager can streamline your work inside Intune? Folks, waiting for your responses.
Maybe Lovely, as long as we wait for the responses, maybe we can talk about some questions, what we have in the chat. I think
Sure.
we had one question. Someone is asking if we can fill dynamic entry ID groups with remediation scripts. This is a tough one, I think. Because remediation script runs on devices and dynamic groups in Entra is on a cloud. This means first you have to fill the bridge. What you can do is you can run a remediation script on a device. You can collect whatever you want, architecture, some rec keys, whatever is available via PowerShell on your device, and that's more or less everything. And then you can send it to log analytics or to an SQL-like storage in the cloud. And based on this value, you can build automation. This means in my storage, I have like CPU architecture and host name. And then I have an automation account which pulls this value and fill Entra ID group. This means it's not a real dynamic group, as it's a direct assignment in the group, but you can build something by your own to fill this gap. I know a lot of people complain you have not enough dynamic, that you can use inventory data to fill your groups. With this, you can build something by your own to fix this. And another question what we have, how to run remediation scripts on demand. This is, I will not say a new feature, but it's not so long in the product. And remediation on demand is very strong in support cases. You write a script, and then you can run it on single PCs or also on multiple PCs. How can you do it? You go to the Intune portal, open the device, go to remediation on demand and select the script you want to run, and then you can run it on a device. But Intune also supports this device query and multi-device query. This means you can write a KQL query to get a list of devices or single device information from a device, and also based on this, you can run remediations on demand, and that's also a strong possibility. But with this, back to you, Loftree, to close the poll.
Okay, we have 108 folks. All right. Haley, is there a way we can see it, or are we going to see that at the end, or we just go to the next one?
We can just go to the next one. We don't show the poll results for this one.
Oh, okay, not for this one. All right, no problem. All right, back to Jannik.
Yes, thank you so much. And so far we talked a lot about what are use cases, what is Graph, which interfaces we have. But now let's look into really how it works. How can you use it in your environment, and how can you start? And what is important things, what you have to know about Graph and about Graph with PowerShell. The first thing what I want to clarify, what is an API? Because Graph is an API, an application programming interface. This means it's an interface how I can interact with a product like Intune, like the data, the actions, all the magic behind Intune with code, or with an programming language or Microsoft Flow, for example, to do the same what I do in the UI, also on an automated way. This means I have my client. This could be my PC. This could be my my server, my automation account. I have the API in between, and I have a server. The server in this case is the Microsoft world with a different resources, user, like groups, like devices, and the API is more or less the thing in between to build up this communication. But what is Microsoft Graph? I talk a lot about this. Graph is the heart behind Intune and the most Microsoft products. This means if I want to see all users in my script or want to get all users, I can call out Graph, the interface, and Graph pulls this information from different provider. In this case, it pulls the information from a user provider. This means it's a unified level between the Microsoft UI, ID UI usage. I can consume it with PowerShell, with a Graph Explorer, with everything where I can run some code. But how do I get this graph calls? How to figure out what's the right URL? And also, what is beta? What does it mean? And is beta really beta? This is something what we can clarify. Maybe some of you already saw the developer tool browser. This means if you go to the three dots in your browser, go to more tools, and then you will find the developer tools. And in this developer tools, you have a network section. And this section shows you every outgoing connection, the graph service, but also to some other endpoints. What I can now do is I simulate an action, what I want to automate, like I want to have a list of my devices. What do? I open the Intune console, go to Windows devices, for example, and then I get the list. And in this network monitor, I can see exactly the request URL, what the Intune portal fired out to get this information. And what I now can do, I can copy this URL and can put this in my script. How you can do it, we will have a look very soon. But another thing what you have to know is often you see URLs where in, and normally you should avoid to use beta in your productive scripts, but what Microsoft do is the most calls behind Intune are not V1 official releases. They use the beta releases of their API also in their products. This means beta is not always beta because they are productive APIs. How is a graph call structured? In the end, it starts with HTTPS .microsoft.com, and then you have the endpoint. As I said, it could be V1 or it could be beta. Then you have the resources. When I want to have devices or something from Intune, it's mostly slash device management, slash devices, audit events, like I have it here in the example, or something else. And then you have a last section, and these are the query parameters. I can influence the output. This means I have a big list and I can filter this list. I can say I only want to have top 10. I can say I want to extend this with another attribute. I can say I only want to have an ID or the device name. Here I can influence the output a bit more. This is basically how a graph URL looks like and this is structured. How can I interact with graph? When I use PowerShell, I have two possibilities. One is the very manual possibilities. This is also the possibility I like most, is invoke REST method. This means I copy the URL as I showed you before from my browser, or I look at the documentation, I look in the Graph Explorer, figure out what is the right endpoint, and then I make invoke REST method. This means only clear API calls. The disadvantage here is I have to handle the authentication, the paging, everything by my own. The advantage is I have the full control. This means I can really influence what I want to do. But the method I would recommend much more for beginners or to make everything much easier is the Microsoft Graph SDK. This is the SDK which Microsoft provides. And here the authentication is handled by it. I don't have to take care how to get the token. It has names for the different functions. They are somewhat confusing. We will see. But I don't have to take care what's the URL. I only have to figure out what's the right name. And also here there is a beta SDK, but there's also a V1 SDK. How can I work with it? And here I have bring you an example. The first thing what I have to do is the authentication. As I said, the SDK will handle this. I only have to run a connect mg graph. And here I can decide, do I want to have an interactive authentication where a browser pops up and I log in with my credential? Or do I want to have a silent authentication where I have For example, an app registration where I have an app ID and a secret, and can use this also to authenticate, which runs in Azure. I can also use a managed identity. And then if I'm authenticated, if I have the token, I only can call mg user, get mg user, and then I get a list of all my users. I can, in case I fill that with a display name, to only get one user, and that's it. This means with 2 lines, I communicate with Graph. It's not so hard. How can I find, for example, the mg user, what I showed you before, or some other calls? It's more or less the complete same way as I showed you before with this developer tools, but that's a very nice way to make your life much easier. You simulate the action on the Intune portal, and then you open this browser add-on. It's named Graph X-Ray. You can install this also from the Chrome and Edge store, and this will directly generate your code based on the UI. This means if I also see here the devices, I can copy out the PowerShell code, and I not have to search in Google or somewhere else what's the command. I direct it from this extension, and that's also very strong what you can do with it. At the beginning, we talk about the scenario clean up stale devices, and that's what you can perfectly do with PowerShell. You can perfectly do this with this Graph SDK. And this is the example I also want to show you. Here I wrote a script. The first thing modules, then I make the authentication. I decide I will cut off the devices which are inactive since 90 days. And my goal is not only to delete them in Intune, I also want to delete them in Endpoint. What did I do here? I make and get mg device management manage device. And this was what I mentioned before. The names are sometimes confusing. This is due to the machine generated code. This means this SDK is not human. This is completely machine generated. And with this get mg device manage devices, I get all my devices which are older than 90 days, because I add here in where option last check-in date is older than 90 days. And with this, I can loop through every device. For example, I get a list of 10 devices. I loop through each device. And first, I delete it out of Intune. And the second thing is I delete device with the same name also in Entra. And with this, I have a very simple script. It's only a handful of lines, and I have automated and time-consuming task on a very easy way. This means I can copy it and put this in my automation account. But important to say here, everything what I showed you today with scripts, I will also bring in a blog post on the Recast blog. This means you can copy paste it from here if you also want to apply this in your environment. So now we talk a lot about some things, how they're working. We look into the SDK, but I can bring this into reality, or you can bring this into an automated flow. And with this, I will share my screen and will show you my automation account. Lovely, let me know when you can see my screen. Is it live? Okay, good. What you see here is my Azure automation account. I shared a runbook with you. A runbook is more or less a code editor where I can paste in code and can run it first as a test to see if everything works. Later, if I say, hey, that script is good, it's an automation I want to run every hour, every day, then I can also create a schedule, or I can also make this event-based. This means if something happened, I can also run this remediation, this automation to remediate something or to react on a specific event. What you see here is a simple script also, where I check the Graph API to get all device overview. This means I get a count of how many devices do I have in my tenant, how many Android devices do I have, how many iOS devices do I have, and I want to run this every day to see which devices do I have, and if there's a change from yesterday to tomorrow, that I can react on this. Also, I can send it via emails, via Teams, or something else. This is only a demonstration how you can do this. I put this in this runbook. Here I have to connect a set account minus identity. This is needed to user manage identity. With this, I don't need a secret. The resource as such is the identity who authenticates against Graph. So now I have written this code and want to test this. And what we see here is the test pane. If I click on this, I can run the script. In I will not run it because it could take 1 to 2 minutes, but we can look. And the whole thing, what happens is it imports the module, it authenticates, it pulls the device overview information from Intune, and it gives me an output from my total devices and how many devices I have per platform. I only have a small test tenant. It's my private tenant. This means you'll only see a small number of devices. But this is how things works. And as I said, I can now send it every day via a report to my email to see what's happening in my tenant and to have a good overview. But I also have another example I want to show you today. This is an app installation error thing. This means I'm responsible for my environment. I manage devices, and I want to make sure that I'm always aware if something happened. And what are things which are often happen in an environment, that an app installation runs in an error. It is okay when you work in a big environment with thousands, 100,000 devices, if this one. But I'm interested in if 10% of my app installation has an error, I want to be aware very early that I can react and can fix it. And for this, I write this automation. This automation can run, for example, every hour. It logs into my Microsoft tenant, it gets the token. And in this case, I don't use the SDK. Here I make I invoke REST calls. And for this, I get app installation summary report from Intune. It's a bigger script, but as I said, I will share it afterwards with you in a blog post. And then you can copy paste it. And in this script, I get a report of app installation error. And based on the results, I send the email where I get a daily overview. It looks then, let me share the email with you. Like this. This means I get a daily overview. I hope you can see it. Come on. Yeah, here it is. Here you get a daily overview of the topmost application with an issue. I have a small tenant, as I said, and everything is well managed in my tenant. I have a 0 error rate. But if there is something went wrong, I get this email, everything is red, and I can check and react if, for example, an app has an issue, and figure out what's the reason and fix it as soon as possible to have not a bigger user impact with this. Good. That was basically all from my side. And with this, I will give back to Fabian to moderate the Q&A.
All right, let's take a look at some of these. Somebody asked, is there a community edition for right-click tools for Intune? And I believe that was already answered in the chat, but you can, I'll answer it, but you can see that inside of our website at recastsoftware.com. And some of these you've already answered, both Lovepreet and Jannik.
I'm going to drop the install instructions for Community Edition and Enterprise Edition because that was asked a few times throughout. So those are now in the chat. Some people were asking if there's a separate download and then where to go get the extensions. So again, this is for Edge or Chrome, so you can use it in either.
Let's see, there was a question, Lapreet might be able to answer this. I think it was for the extension. Can you also perform the same steps for other endpoints like iOS devices?
Yeah, I did answer that, but the answer is no. For now, right-click tools are only for Windows devices.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see.
What about this one? Maybe Jannik can speak to this one, expanding on a remediation script to create a dynamic in Entra ID.
I think this question we already answered during the poll. I said you can run a remediation, put this in a log analytics, and build automation on top of this, the Entra group, but there's no inbuilt possibility to do it.
Yeah.
There was a ton throughout the webinar. I'm just scrolling up this endless chat. If you have one that wasn't covered, I know we tried to cover many of them throughout as we were going through content, but if yours didn't get covered, if you wouldn't mind dropping it again in the chat so it's in the top. Lovepreet, there was one. Can you create Entra groups inside Recast Application Manager?
No, we pull Entra groups from our application manager. Now, with right-click tools, we are actually adding a new functionality within right-click tools very soon, which would let you add devices to a group. So for those who are familiar with SCCM and right-click tools, we used to have a tool called Add Devices to a Collection. Very similar to that, there's going to be one for Add Devices to a Group. So we would be able to enhance that, but it's not necessarily saying that we are creating a group, right? Not from the application manager, at least. We're just pulling it from there.
Kind of similarly, someone asked, can you enroll a hybrid join device into Intune using right-click tools?
Can you enroll it? Not really. I mean, we help with the enrollment, but there's not a button that basically enrolls a device automatically.
I think we have two another questions in the chat. One is from Matthias. He is asking if I try to enroll a FIDO2 key via Graph. To be honest, I never did this, but here you can use the same procedure. Try to do it in the UI, capture the network connections, and then you can put it in a script and can do it similar like you did this in the UI. As I said, never did this. If you get this working, I'm curious if you were successful with it, but sounds interesting.
Here's a good one from David that I don't think we covered. He said, is there a way to pause or postpone the deployment steps if there is an issue? And I assume this was for application manager.
Yeah, the answer is yes. You can certainly pause a deployment process if you want to. However, I do want to be super clear and transparent. When you create a deployment process, when you hit the run button, right? That is a template that is being replicated within SCCM or Intune right away. So for example, if you had 3 collections or if you have 4 collections in there, all 4 of them are going to be replicated inside SCCM or Intune based on the timeframes you picked. So when you hit the pause on the template or on the web UI, it will pause future versions to be coming down. It won't pause the deployment that is already gone or that's already created. So in order to pause that one, you would have to go to SCCM or Intune to do that one, the one that's already created. If that makes sense. And we could, if you answered in the poll, we could connect with you and give you more details on that.
David, if you're still here, let us know if that answered your question or if you have any follow-ups from that one. Okay, I think that covers most of them. Okay, I'm getting back up to the top. If you have any others, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. We're also on Reddit and on Discord. So we chat in there. Feel free to ask questions with peers and the Recast team. You'll see our handle right there. And if you responded yes to the poll, then we'll reach out to you to see, was it a demo you wanted? It would probably be by Lovepreet. Or, pricing or the application list or whatever it is that you need. And if not, then you can meet us in the forums on Reddit or Discord. Thank you all for joining. Everyone will get a recording of the webinar sent to you via email. Also, thank you, Jannik, for joining. We'll plan to have more and more Microsoft MVPs on our webinars moving forward. So we're excited to have him with us today. Hope everyone enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Thank you all.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Good day.